is Ambi from Board Game Blitz, and today I'm going to talk about my highlights in board gaming from the month of May. But first, I'm going to go over my acquisitions. So I got a couple of review copies from Hachette Board Games USA. I got MicroMacro Kids and Mooki Island. These are both kids games. I've actually made overview videos for these. And the Mooki Island one is already out, and MicroMacro Kids will be coming out next week. Mooki Island is a 2-player competitive card game set collection for kids. And MicroMacro Kids is like MicroMacro. Where's Waldo type detective game, hidden pictures, but for kids with no murder. And then I went to KublaCon, my local convention in May, and there I got a free game there, Nemalia. Apparently Crystal has talked about it on the podcast before and enjoyed it, but it looks like a tile laying game. And this was a game that was being given out for free to a lot of people. And then I got a copy of Murder at the Atelier. This is a escape room in a certain number of cards. I'm not sure how many, but it's designed by a local designer here, John Belgis, in the Bay Area. I had heard about it in a puzzle game Discord and had messaged the developer, John Brieger, because I had met him through the Golden Gate Game Makers, which is a group of designers here in the Bay Area. And so I was going to be getting a copy last KublaCon, but I never saw him. So then finally saw him this KublaCon. So I got it. I'm excited. My kids started opening it already, but I'm trying not to look at it because it's an escape room game. Also at KublaCon, I ran into Willie from Board Games in Blank, also known as Gameritis Guy on our Discord. But he makes these dice trays in cigar boxes, and so he gave me one. And it has my initials, AV, which, that's just a coincidence, but kind of cool, huh? If you ignore the it's AVO, but AV. And then, yeah, so you go in here and you roll dice. I found some various dice, so I show you. There, see? They roll. That was it for the acquisitions. So a recap of my stats in May. I used the app BG Stats to log my plays, which links to the website boardgamegeek.com. And I have 37 plays of 20 different games in May. 11 were new to me. Review copies that I played, I already mentioned MicroMacro Kids and Mooki Island, which videos are coming out or have already come out for. And I also played Sherlock, the game is Afoot, which I mentioned on the podcast. That's a deduction game that I wanted to like more than I did. And so now on to the highlights. I think a lot of my highlights were at KublaCon and near the end of May, because I think most of my gaming was actually at KublaCon, but a lot of them were with kids. So I can mention a little bit of a KublaCon recap here. I took my kids, my 5-year-old twins, and this was the first year they could get badges themselves. KublaCon has this young player room, which is really neat. It's for ages 5 to 12, I think. I'm not sure what the upper limit is. But for the young kids, ages 5 to 8, they go in and a parent needs to be there with them. So I was in there with them most of the time. Both my husband and I were in there with them. They have their own children's game library, so the kids can get a game and play it. They also have events, so they have signups for games to play. And they also have other events like crafting. They made dice bags. They got to pick a color of felt dice bag and a ribbon, put it together, and then glue decorations on it. They also had coloring contest every night. They could color a picture and then hang it up on the wall, and that would be entered into the coloring contest. Another cool event is the mini Mongol March. So at KublaCon, the mascot is, I guess, Kubla. So there's a big guy dressed up as Kubla, the Mongol warrior. And all the kids will line up and they get little costumes to wear, like a helmet or a shield. And they'll line up and chant, Kubla, Kubla, as they're walking along behind him. And then he'll stop periodically. He'll go into one of the rooms and then raise his club. And then all the kids will yell, Kubla! And then the rest of the attendees will yell, Khan! So it's a really cute little march, and my kids really loved it. They love dressing up, and one of my kids had been asking, he was so excited to yell KublaCon because he had heard it before, and he's like, when can I yell Kubla? When can I say it? I want to do it. So that was really exciting. But we did play a few games in the young players room. A lot of them were children's games. I let my kids pick out the games they wanted to play. And that means that I did have to play Scooby-Doo Monopoly I played, and the Pirates of the Caribbean, Game of Life, and some other games that I did not really want to play, but my kid was excited and we tried them. But one game that I had wanted to try that luckily one of my kids picked out was Magic Mountain. So this was a game that had won the Kinderspiel des Jahres. It's kind of has a pachinko mechanism, but also moving on colors. It's cooperative. There's a slope with different routes, and then there's a bag with 5 different colored marbles in them. So on your turn, you're drawing one marble and then picking which route to drop it down. There are 6 wizard apprentice figurines, and that's your team, and 4 witch figurines, and they're going to be on the board. And when the marble goes down and hits one of them, that figure will move to the next open space of that color. So that's kind of like a Hoot Owl Hoot or Candyland mechanism where you're moving ahead to the next open space, but you can jump over spaces that are occupied. So like you kind of want to hit the apprentice wizards to make them go ahead, because you want 4 apprentice wizards to reach the bottom before 3 witches do. But the witches get a head start, so they're already ahead. And as you're moving ahead, like if you roll the yellow marble and then it's hitting a couple of your apprentices, then like they get ahead. But then if it hits a witch next, then like all of the yellow spots are already taken by your apprentices. So then the witch will go super far ahead. And so it was kind of hard to win. We did win the first game, but I think we lost the next 2 games. But yeah, we played it multiple times and my kids liked it. And I think it was one of my kids' favorite games of the con, because like they've been really into Wicked, the movie, and so like he likes pretending to be Elphaba, and he's like, oh, they were witches like me. So I'm not sure if he was the traitor of the cooperative game because we're supposed to not let the witches win. But yeah, it's a fun game, marbles, pachinko type game. And then another highlight of the con was not a children's game. I actually went again later with Toby a couple of the nights while his mom watched our kids while they were sleeping. And we went to the Protospiel room where a lot of designers were testing their prototypes. And we got to play one game that's codenamed I Ain't Got Time for That, I think. He said I can talk about it. The designer is Andrew DeLulo. He had a few games, like we were saying, oh, do you want players? Like we have a little bit of time. It's like, how much time do you have? Because I have this game that's 3 hours, a game that's 4 hours, and this game that's 5 minutes. And we're like, all right, we'll do the 5-minute one, because we only had, we had less time than we even thought because one of our kids was not sleeping. So we ended up going home early that night. But anyways, this game, it's like WarioWare for board games. I talked about it on the podcast, but basically there's a deck of cards and it's a cooperative game. And so each card on the back will say like what you need for that mini game. Each card is a mini game. And I think there were like 4 dice, a meeple, and a couple tokens. And so you'll take turns flipping the card over. So I'll take a card and it says, oh, you need 4 dice for this. And then you flip it over and it says, okay, stack the 4 dice into a tower. And so you do that. And then the next person will take the next card. And you're seeing how many of the cards you can complete in 5 minutes. So it was a lot of fun. The mini games varied a lot. There were dexterity ones, there were like word ones, some math ones, some where you had to do stuff with the other people. So that was a lot of fun. I think there were 24 cards when we played it and we got through the whole deck. And he said we were the first team to do that. We played 3 players. It's probably harder with more players because like for the ones that require everyone to do something, that would take a bit longer. But I love real-time games and like speed stuff, and it's real-time cooperative and it has mini games. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But it still seems like there's quite a ways before it can get published because they have to make a lot more cards to make it a full game. All right, the last game I want to mention from this month, I did not actually play at KublaCon, but a lot of people were, because this is the Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship, which is an upcoming Lord of the Rings pandemic game. My friend Lupe works at Office Dog, and so she brought it to game night the day after KublaCon. So like I saw a lot of people, she was demoing it a bunch at KublaCon, and then we played it together on our weekly game night. So I really like Lord of the Rings as a theme. And Pandemic, I actually haven't played that much of the base game, and I haven't played it in a while. I played like Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and part of Pandemic Legacy Season 2, but then we haven't continued it because it's been hard to get our group back together. So like I was kind of forgetting while we were playing that this game was based on Pandemic, because like it looks a lot different. It has like these cute little custom meeples, little like armies. So instead of diseases on the board, there's armies and they're moving along routes and you're working together to try to stop the armies and also get Frodo to Mordor. There's actually a bunch of different objectives and you can pick different objectives cards for the game, but we played with the base like recommended first setup, which was I think 3 objectives: do something in Rivendell, do something with Saruman, and get like a bunch of armies in Minas Tirith. And then the final objective was get Frodo to Mount Doom with a bunch of ring cards. So I think the base game is based on one of the Pandemic ones where there's armies. I don't remember which one it is because I haven't played a lot of like the other Pandemic variants, but there's one with armies where armies move around instead of diseases where they outbreak. So like the bad things were orc armies and they're moving along routes on the board. So after each player's turn, the armies are going to do bad things. The bad thing deck, I don't know what it's called, flips over a few cards based on the threat level. And instead of just doing like one thing, each card has 2 different things that it can do. And the back of the next card in the deck, they have different backs, determines whether you're doing the top side or the bottom side. The bottom side, I think, was usually the armies moving along the routes. and then the top side was like people getting reinforced. But there's also this eye token. The Eye of Sauron is looking at Frodo. A lot of things make it move to look at Frodo, but if it's looking at Frodo, then the bad thing will be even worse. But if it's not looking at Frodo, it'll just move the eye to look at Frodo first for some of the bad cards. So when you're playing on your turn, you're actually controlling 2 characters instead of 1, and you have 4 actions with one character and 1 action with the other character. And all the characters have special abilities that do different things. But basically you can move around, you can fight, you can muster troops. Sometimes they cost tokens to do things, and like the tokens are icons on your cards. So it's felt a lot more complicated than Pandemic, but also felt kind of thematic with like, I had Aowen and she could muster troops in Rohan for free, and like she also could defeat Nazguls when she's having a battle. So another thing is this has battles. When you go to a place with enemies, you can fight them, and there's these dice and this big dice tower, and so you're like fighting the enemies and trying to defeat them. I don't know if other versions of Pandemic have dice, but yeah, that was different. And so like it didn't really feel super pandemic-y to me, and I kept forgetting. But I could see like it was based on Pandemic for the base part with a lot of stuff added on. So I really liked the components of the game, and like it was neat when it was thematic, like we all ended up going to Minas Tirith and distracting Sauron, because also when you fight, the eye moves to where you are. But like it was kind of complicated, and it was actually kind of hard to see what was going on the map with the routes. So I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like I wanted to get, I don't own a Lord of the Rings game. Well, I own Lord of the Rings Backgammon, but other than that, I don't own a Lord of the Rings game right now. And I wanted this to be like one that I would want to get, but I'm not sure now if I want to get it. So it was okay though, but I think it was because it was more complicated. It took us 2 hours to play, so it was like longer than I would want it to be for that type of game. Oh, one last highlight of the month that I did not log any plays for was that I brought some games and my book Board Game Day to my kids' school. They're 5 years old, so their school is TK, ages 4 and 5. But I brought my book, I read it to them, and then we brought some games to play with the kids. And so we rotated around and they played a bunch of games, and I think it went pretty well. A lot of the kids were having fun. They really liked First Orchard and Go Away Monster. So, and people liked stacking animal upon animal. They weren't playing completely by the rules because I didn't teach them all the dice rules, but like they were stacking it, and then like I saw some kids trying to make up rules for it as they were like rolling the dice, like, oh, this means this now. So that was kind of cool, just being able to introduce games to young kids, and I want to try again. There's a couple weeks left of school, so I'm hoping to be able to bring some board games again before the end of the school year. Alright, so that was it for my May highlights. Not as many specific games, but more experiences this month. So I hope you had a good May, and let me know what your highlights of the month were, whether they're specific board games or like experiences, conventions, and stuff. Thanks for watching Board Game Blitz. Bye!